Nimble AMS clients reach out to me for various reasons, and one of the reasons is they're frustrated about the person they're talking to on calls and they're discussing requirements with is not actually the person that's going to be building the solution. It may be someone very knowledgeable in Nimble, and that would typically be a solution architect. But then they ultimately write the requirements and then hand it off to someone who's less experienced with Nimble. And that creates a couple of challenges. One, there could be a miscommunication between that solution architect and the business analyst, leading to not getting exactly what you asked for. There's also going to be billable time between the solution architect and the business analyst. It's not necessarily the meetings you're on. They could both be at a meeting, and guess what? They're both billing. And then also, there's internal meetings, most likely between that solution architect and the business analyst, trying to discuss the problem. I eliminate all that. You're working with me, and I'm the solution architect. I've been using Nimble since 2014. So I know the product deeply, and I also recognize that Salesforce is updating 3 times a year. Nimble AMS is updating 3 times a year. So it's 6 major upgrades every year. And I've found many instances where the Nimble AMS help site is unfortunately out of date. Okay, so even if I read something on the help site, I'm still going to test it. And another way that I completely eliminate the problem where you ask for something and you get something completely different is, especially for high traffic, front facing areas like Community Hub, I will build high fidelity mockups. And so AASLD, and particularly their foundation, came to me with a request where they want to end the licensing of their current fundraising software by having all the donations taken in through Community Hub's donation module, which is something that's out of the box, but can take some customization to really bring it up to the level of a fundraising platform. And what I have on screen, if you think it is Community Hub, I fooled you. This is not actually Community Hub. It is a mock-up of it. Okay, so if I click around, I can't click on anything except specific links, because this is a high fidelity mockup. And what I'm trying to do here is give you a really, really close approximation of what I will build for you. So I presented this to AASLD before I did any build. And I have a very, very deep knowledge of Community Hub. I know how all these little card types work. Even if I think I know how it works, I'm still going to go and test things. So if you ask for certain requirements, I really want to make sure I can deliver that for you. All right, so this is a mock-up. And so I presented this. We talked about it in detail. I hit this here and you can see all these comments. So I'm annotating along the way. You also get a highly documented user story where I'm documenting exactly what I'm going to build for you. I'm documenting assumptions that I'm making that I talk through very carefully with your team to say, hey, assumptions aren't like surprises. They're things we talked about that I'm just confirming that your team understands. So I will say, for example, hey, by the way, AASLD understands that if they go down on this page and they make some changes here, but then they come back up and they click this button, it'll actually wipe out the entered values. That's a Community Hub behavior I cannot change. And that's the way the page behaves. So I'll document that as an assumption and say, hey, by the way, the team knows this. So there are 0 surprises. I've built hundreds of Nimble solutions. I've never once had to undo the work I've done because I've done my due diligence before I built anything to make sure that I can deliver exactly what I said I could. And that saves a ton of frustration from your team. It really minimizes that completely. It also avoids the need to do any rework, which is really, really costly. So I set this up here as a mock-up, and then if I swing over, that's the real site. You don't believe me? That is the link. Okay, this is a real site. And so I presented this, tested everything, and then I built it. And look how similar they are. They are extremely similar. There's little nuanced differences. Okay, and I'll get as granular as you need to make sure you feel comfortable with the mockup, because the mockup, me building that does take some billable time, but it was of high value to AASLD because they want to know really clearly what they were going to get if they agreed to the X hours it took me to build it. So I did spend some time doing the mockup, writing the requirements, but they're happy because I did my due diligence and they got what they asked for. There's no surprises. It's like, yep, they're aware of all the little nuances of this page, how each of the cards behaves. You can see little differences, like for example, the shading on this background card, this what we would call a warning card, is a lighter yellow, whereas my mock-ups, my branded, the Seawalker branded yellow. I can dial it in as closely as you want. I don't always go super granular if it's not really warranted, but in this case, it made a lot of sense because it's going to be a lot of people coming through here in the next several years. So AASLD wanted to know specifically what they were going to get. So this is one example of a high fidelity mockup to make sure the client knows exactly what they're getting. I want only to do this because I want to be sensitive to your budget. But at a minimum, you are going to get a highly documented user story so that we have on paper exactly what I'm going to be building for you and the scope of that. And if there's additional changes that need to be made, we can certainly set up additional user stories where we can capture all that. And my process is very proprietary. I've spent a lot of time nurturing it, and it's been very flawless. So if you want this high quality type of Nimble AMS delivery, please reach out to me. I would love to chat with you. Thanks.